Hey there, what's up? This is Seth, and in this video, I want to give you a tour of Click2Mail, and specifically how to use Click2Mail if you are trying to complete a direct mail campaign with a mail piece that involves a mail merge. All you got to do once you are signed into your account is go up here where it says My Account and click that. And then the first thing you're going to do is go down here where it says My Documents. And then when you get here, if you already have a Word document that you created and you just want to add some merge fields to that, you can go ahead and upload a document. Or if you're starting from scratch, you can create a document as well. In my case, I have a pre-made Word document that I'm working with. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Upload Document. And in this case, the piece of mail that I'm putting together is a 2-page letter. So the first page is like just a cover letter, just explaining things. The second page is an actual purchase contract. So in my situation, I would go down here and click on this one. However, if you are doing a postcard or just a single page letter or anything else, you can pick those items from this list. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this, and then I'm going to go right here and click Upload Document. And the one that I'm going to use is this one right here. So we'll click on that, and then there we go. So we'll click Upload. And then once we see our template right there, we can click on this thing and Edit Document. And this is the Click2Mail editor. A lot of times when you're doing a mail merge, like within a Word document and an Excel file, when you sort of combine them together, when you're doing a mail merge that way, it will actually insert like some placeholder text so that you know exactly where those words are going. But with Click2Mail, it's a little bit different. You can't actually have anything in there yet, because the way we have to do this is we have to go up here and click Add a List. And then we're going to upload this new list. And then we'll click Upload. And then the first thing we have to do here is instruct Click2Mail which columns we want to pull the data from when putting together each recipient's address. And so we will start by going right here. And then based on the names of each column, we'll have to find the one that we know represents the correct name to show and simply instruct Click2Mail to use that one. So before you've gotten to this point, you should have already sorted through your list and rearranged it if you need to, just so that you clearly understand which columns need to be selected for this. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And then for address, we're going to click this one right here. And if you have a unit number that's showing as well on the address line, you can add a line and include that unit number too. I don't have that in this particular example, so I'm just going to remove that. And then for city, state, and zip, you just want to find the city, state, and zip of the address of where this person is located. So we're going to do that. State. And then zip. And then as you can see right up here, this just gives us an example of what these address blocks are going to look like, just to kind of help us verify, yep, we picked the right name, we picked the right address, the city, state, and zip. So once that's done, we'll click Save and Close. Alrighty, so now that we get to the actual body of this letter, we need to start telling Click2Mail where we want the mail merge fields to go on this letter template. And this one is formatted specifically for Click2Mail, because you'll notice there's some like blank spots. Like up here, we're going to put the date, the parcel number, the name of the recipient, the offer price right there. Not all direct mail services work like this, so it's kind of just a quirky little thing you have to be aware of when you're using this Click2Mail editor. Just to sort of give you an idea of what you're supposed to do, first we're going to click this text box and just draw a little box right there. And this is where we're going to put the parcel number of every individual person's property that we're sending mail to. So we go up here and click Select Data Field, and then we'll click APN, because that's where all of these individual parcel numbers are listed. And then right here where it says Dear, then we're going to click this again, draw a little box right here, and then this is where we're putting that person's name. So we'll go ahead and put this. We can sort of move the placement of that a little bit. And if we want to increase the size, we could do that too. Say if we wanted to bring this up to 14, just so it sort of matches more with the existing text that's already there. Then we'd also want to, put the date up here. We'd want to put the amount of the offer price right here. And again, all we'd have to do is just go ahead and click on this and find those appropriate columns and put them there. And we would want to put the county name right there, and then the state name right here. And then as we scroll down here to the next page, there's a lot of stuff here that we can complete as well. So for example, the seller's name, address, and zip code, that can all go here as well. So, just do that. City, state, and zip, kind of get the idea. Then for parcel number, that's going to be the APN number again. So we'll just click on that. Legal description. This one is going to depend on whether or not the legal description is included in your Excel file. Sometimes they will be, depending on which data service you use and if you select that option. Otherwise, you could always just put the acreage number here, and then as part of your template, you could put acres in county, state. And then, right here, you would put your offer price, which you can pull from your Excel spreadsheet again. Date of acceptance right there, and then the date it needs to close by right there. And then again, where you see this stuff, name, address, city, state, zip, buyer name, your title. This is stuff you would actually type and put in place before you upload your letter template. Same thing with this down here. Put your phone number, your address, email address, fax number. All that stuff should already be in your Word document before you upload it so that you don't have to insert more merge fields. And there's a couple other things I'll just mention about Click2Mail that I don't really like, and it's two things. First of all, when you're doing letters like this, at the time of this recording, they don't allow you to use an enclosed envelope. The only envelope options they have are windowed envelopes, which basically means you either have to allow room for the address because the address is going to be right here and it's going to show through that window. Or if you are using a template that looks like this, where there's, text all across the page and there's not room for that address to show through the windowed envelope. If you're using this kind of letter, they actually make you add a third page into your letter, which serves no other purpose than to print the delivery and the return address in the proper place so it shows through that windowed envelope. So if you do want to use a template that looks like this, you're going to have to pay even more production costs for them to include that extra page, which simply holds the address in the right place. Whereas if you were using an enclosed envelope, you could just include these two pages because that address would be printed right on the paper of the face of that enclosed envelope. So that issue isn't even really going to apply if you're using something like postcards. But the other thing about Click2Mail that is workable but still kind of annoying is you might notice as I'm putting these text boxes here, they don't really line up exactly with the existing text that's there. You kind of have to be really careful to move it around and have it appear just right so that it looks like it was printed with the original text and it has the same font and the same size and the same alignment and all that. Because if you don't do that, it's going to look like it was just kind of haphazardly thrown in there, because it kind of was, because that's what this system makes you do. So I've been able to work with it in the past and it's turned out fine, but it just sort of took a little bit more tweaking in the end product. Didn't really look quite as polished as I wanted it to. I don't think it really hurt anything in the end, but it just wasn't really my preferred way to do it. I'd rather actually insert the merge fields within Microsoft Word so I can make sure the font and the size and the alignment is all correct before I send it out. And that's something that can't really do that well with this particular type of tool. At least if there is a better way, I'm not sure how that would work. I think it can still totally work, and it is nice because with Click2Mail, there's really no other person that gets involved. You literally have total control over the end product, which may be a good thing or a bad thing depending on how good you are at using this tool. But anyway, once you have all of the fields inserted where you want them to be and you're ready to move forward, all you have to do is click this. And then you would go right here to the one you just created and click Start New Job. And if you want to name your project something special, you can do that here. Click Continue. And then when you get to this section, you can sort of do a cost estimate based on the type of mail you're sending out and how much of it you're sending out and the type of postage you choose and all the different options they have available. So in this case, I'm going to have address on first page, and I can do that because I'm using a template that gives me the space for that. Otherwise, I would have to choose this option, address on a separate page, which I've done before, so it's not the end of the world, but in this case, I can do this one. And then production time next day, and then envelope, this is going to be a double window. So there's going to be a window where my return address is there and a window where the delivery address is there. And then print color and paper color. This is going to be just black and white. It's nothing too fancy. And then I'm going to have them printed on one side, so 2 pages in each envelope. And the postage that I'm going to use for now, we'll just say first class. And then for cost estimate, we're going to say 898 in here and see what that comes out to. Okay, so as you'll notice here, the price is 81 cents per mail piece based on this number. And as soon as you go over 500, that price starts to go down the higher and higher you go. So if we did 1,000, it would be 72 cents a piece. If we did 5,000, it'd be 68 cents a piece. So you kind of get discounts based on a higher volume if you're sending out a ton of mail. And you can also make changes over here and see how those changes are going to affect your price. So let's change the postage around a little bit, see if that does anything. Okay, so that made the price go down substantially. If we wanted to put an actual live peel and stick stamp, we could try that as well. And that would be substantially more expensive. And by the way, what that means is they'll just put an actual stamp on the envelope rather than printing the postage on there. So sometimes it looks a little bit more personal when there's a real stamp on there like that. And say if we wanted to add the address on a separate page, if we were using a different template that didn't have that blank space on it, that would make the price go up by 3 cents, 3.5 cents, I think. So, not a huge difference, but when you multiply that by hundreds or thousands, it can add up, and it's just kind of an unnecessary cost. It doesn't need to be there. So anyway, you kind of get the idea on how you can determine what the cost is going to be of your direct mail campaign. So whatever options you decide to work with, you can just go ahead and click continue. And then something else you'll have to do is select which mailing list you want to use. And we're obviously going to use this one that I just uploaded, so go ahead and select that. And now it's going to know which pieces of data to pull from which spreadsheet. So that's all set, and then this shows us what the total price is going to be. And then once this is all done, we can click continue. And then this message is telling me that my list contains some addresses that are not mailable because they're non-standard addresses or there's some kind of issue with those. So what we can do here, and by the way, this really is in your best interest because if you don't do this, your mail will get sent back to you because it can't reach the recipient. So we'll go here to edit address list. And then we're going to filter based on non-standard addresses. And it looks like we've got about 30 or so addresses on this list that are non-standard. So we're just going to go ahead and delete non-standard mailing addresses right here. Say OK. Okay, so now we can be done here. Then we'll click continue again. And we're still getting that message, so we'll go back again, continue editing this. And we're going to say delete unmailable addresses. And that should make it easier. Okay, so there's just a few more that are still not mailable. Okay, click done again, and then we will try to move on. Okay, so now we're able to download the actual proof and get a closer look at what the final documents are going to look like. And then this allows us to see just a few examples of what the actual letters are going to look like based on the document we uploaded and the list we're using and the merge fields we inserted in there. And as you can see, some of these are not complete. That's because I didn't actually select the appropriate merge field to go in there. That's why it just says enter text. But if I had selected the right one, that would show the date and this would show the offer price and all that. And then we can scroll through this document and see the actual contract that we're sending out. Of course, again, this doesn't have all the stuff lined up perfectly, but you kind of get the idea on how you enter those merge fields. And something that I will note is part of the benefit of having this proof is you can look at this and see, oh, this text is out of alignment, or it's not the right font, or it's not the right size, or it just doesn't quite fit. If you identify any issues like that, you can then go back before you place your order and make sure everything looks perfect before you go forward and send the stuff out. So that's why this is a pretty important step to look closely at before you move forward. But once it's all set, you just go ahead and close that. If you need to edit anything, you can go ahead and do that here. But if you're all set and ready to move forward, you can just click this and then type in your initials and then click save and exit or add to cart if you're ready to actually place the order. And then you're going to go ahead and click on finish checkout. And then once you're at this page, you can just go ahead and click on proceed to checkout and go ahead and complete your order. And based on my experience, the time frame, if you use the normal first class postage, is usually about a week after you place that order is when the mail pieces will reach the recipients. A week, give or take a day or two. So that's usually the timing you can depend on. And again, I always send a letter to myself in that list just so that I can know when I receive it, everybody else probably has received theirs as well. So there you go. That's how you can do a mail merge with Click2Mail. If you want to give it a shot, that's how it's done. Thanks for watching, and I wish you all the best with your next direct mail campaign.